Show here, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to go start the series of what I call PT mistakes. Common mistakes that I've seen. I've done it myself, look, I'm no angel, but I've learned from these mistakes. So that's the thing with mistakes. If you do it once and you learn from it, that's fine. If you keep making the same mistakes over and over again, that's a problem. You're not reflecting enough or looking at what you're doing. Anyway, so we're going to go through today some of the first sort of mistake I see with a lot of trainers, especially with new trainers coming in, less experienced, is overloading clients. A big thing that I've seen is one of the worst things because it's embarrassing, but it's also can be very severe in terms of the consequences with the client getting hurt or whatever. And I've seen trainers hurting and injuring clients with this. It's something, I don't know whether it's from the school of PT, it's these progression models that are ingrained or put forward to trainers from an early start. Look, every week you got to add 2.5 kilos, you got to do 5 kilos here, and people just not necessarily maybe even practicing it on their own first. This is where I'm a big believer of you got to do things and go through protocols, do exercises, do programs on yourself first before you give it to other people. Then you can relate, then you can empathize, then you know what it feels like, you know what your client is going through as well. Rather than, I read this thing on a blog or on YouTube or on Instagram or a TikTok and I'm just going to give it, that looks cool, I'll give it to that client. No way. You have no idea what it's like, what it feels like. You must always be prepared to have done something yourself or do something yourself. Do not just go and just give things to people and as like a scientific experiment and they're the guinea pigs. Look, I joke with my clients that they're a guinea pig, but I know what it feels like, and sometimes just to make them feel special. And it's more just you've got to go through things yourself to check if this is even safe or at their right level. And overloading is a big one. I've seen trainers, first session, they get them in a seated shoulder press, they stick two like 15 kilo dumbbells in each hand, and the client just can't even move, or they get one out but it's a grind and the rep range is actually 10 to 12. Then the client walks away and they have painful shoulders for the next week and they don't want to train with that trainer again. There's all these disaster stories. I've seen just where trainers totally go away from focus on the quality of the movement and just go into quantities. They start overloading pack squats or overloading even back squats, but at the compensation of cutting range of motion. And that's always the case. You'll see people just keep loading because they're like, oh, okay, I've got to increase the weight over 3 sets and warm up, or if they can get it, I've just got to keep. But they're not even looking at the range of motion. They're standing there, and maybe the first set was a full range of motion. Second set, the guy or the girl is doing like a quarter squat. But yeah, well done, you got 100 kilos or 150 kilos on. It's like, no, that is totally wrong. You're just putting your client at more risk of getting injured and hurt, and a spasm here and a spasm there. Just forget about it. Just always don't risk overloading for the sake of an ego boost for them or for you. Or I've got the strongest client in the gym doing a 2-inch super high box squat. Forget about it. The main thing is, can this person, especially with the general population, always trying, especially the free weight and movements and functional movements, trying to get them through a full range of motion. Can you get all the way down into a squat and come all the way back up? So that's going to be a lot healthier for their muscles, for their joints, for their fascia, for all their soft tissue structures. And then you can't use as much weight. And you're not trying to train powerlifters or weightlifters where the sport, remember those are sports, and even sometimes CrossFit, the sport is to lift as much weight as possible. That's the sport, it's a skill to lift heavy weights. And for general population, you don't need to lift heavy weights to get stronger or fitter or more conditioned or whatever. So for me, when trainers, I see trainers just increasing weights, for me, they're lazy and they're not thinking. They're just going through the motion. It's the easy option just to increase the weight the next step and not try and relate your progression models to what is the client actually here to come and see you for, what is their goal, where are they going, all these type of things. And instead, right, we're going to go from 12 kilos to 14 kilos now. What about adding in some extra time under tension, getting them working a little bit longer? Or how about we shorten that rest period up? Or we try and extend the sets a little bit? Or we change the angle in terms of looking at the mechanical leverage style of system. That's going to put you into a more disadvantageous position with the same weight. Or we challenge the complexity of the movement. We add another joint in. We add in, making it more unstable. Rather than doing your bench presses off a bench, you do it off a Swiss ball, for instance. These type of things. Because again, general population are not there. They're not weightlifters and powerlifters. Now, if you're training those guys, powerlifters, weightlifters, fine. That's a different story. you're not. These guys don't need to be able to, need to be able to lift hundreds of kilos. It's not relative to their function, their day-to-day, or probably to their goal, or even, especially if they're doing long distance, they want to do some endurance events like Tough Mudders or marathons or these type of things. Just because you can squat 150 kilos doesn't mean you're going to be a better runner, and vice versa. There's a totally different school, the SAID principle, a specific adaptation to impose demands. If you've got to get better running, get better for running, and work on the muscles and the environment that you're in for running, and work on building strength in that environment. And the muscle mass, the muscles, how they function with running, and get those patterns stronger as well. So look, overloading. Look, I always say to a lot of my trainers who may be watching will know this, better to undercook than overcook your steak, because if you undercook your steak, you can always pop it back on the grill and cook it a little bit more. If you overcook your steak and it's charcoal, that steak is ruined. This goes back to your clients as well, not comparing your clients with steak, but it's better to undercook. It's better to leave them wanting a little bit more than them to be injured during the session, because they probably will never come back to you. Let them wanting more, or give you some feedback at the end of the session. Look, I think I could have done a little bit more on that. And you're like, great, excellent. Next session, we'll push a little bit harder. Today, I just wanted to test the water, see where you're at and where your threshold is. So now we know we've got a little bit extra. It's much better that way, and for business as well, than you trying to overcook these clients. Okay, so look, hope that was useful, something to think about, make you more aware about what you're currently doing, and please leave some comments below with some sort of examples or experiences that you've had yourself with overloading clients. Never sacrifice the quality of the movements that you're doing for quantity. Okay, look, please like, subscribe, comment below, and we'll see you in the next video.